should be able to go down one here. Okay, now it's way too high. Okay, so what are we doing today? Today we're going to show you how I adapted a W signal tach like this one here, which was the original tachometer from my upper helm. It's pretty beat up old tach, but it actually still works. So we're going to adapt the W signal tachometer to a Hall effect sensor, one of these cheap ones that you can get on Amazon. Here's the one set up in our rig right here, and here's the part number. Let's see if I can get that. Is it upside down? Yes, there we go. So there's the part number, and this was 4 Hall effect sensors with magnets for about 12 bucks. So these Hall effect sensors are very, very cheap, and they seem to be very reliable. And so I'm going to use this now to output a signal to be used for our W signal tach, and that's not an easy feat, because the W signal tach is a tach that is very common to trawlers, diesel trawlers. Many of you have them, and they take a signal off the alternator. The problem with that, not really a problem, but the way they work is the alternator has many poles or pulses, and it has I believe one pulse for every pole. And I think a lot of them are 8 or 12 or 14 poles, and they spin at a faster rate than the engine does, because usually the balancer pulley is a large pulley and the alternator pulley is small, so it gets overdriven. So it has many pulses per one revolution of the engine. So these tachs require a very large number of pulses to operate and read correctly. But the signal from the W pulse alternator is not always the best signal, especially if it's an internally regulated one, because a lot of times they need a load to output a good signal. And so a lot of times when you start the motor up, nothing happens on the tach until you throttle up a little bit and the alternator starts putting out. Then you get a tach signal, but then also as the battery begins to charge and the inboard or the onboard regulator of the alternator starts to pull back the field voltage, and the output of the alternator starts to drop. Sometimes you'll lose your tach, or it'll start to bounce around. It's not that great. So that's why we're going to, and that's how mine was, and that's how a lot of people say theirs are. It's not uncommon. If you have an externally regulated alternator regulator, then a lot of times they have a separate output for the tach. But we're going to use this, and it's going to hopefully make it a lot more reliable. Very few parts to this, and obviously this signal will not work with a W signal tach, because this is going to be mounted on the front of the motor, and we'll put magnets on the balancer. But you would have to stack up 25 magnets or whatever, 20, 26, 28, 32 magnets to get it to match these signals. And some of these are adjustable, but you're not likely to get to where they're adjustable enough to get in the range by just putting 1 or 4 magnets on the balancer. So I'm going to show you how I solved that problem and give you a full rundown of exactly what I did, and we'll check it for accuracy as well. So let's do it. Okay, just a little bit about the rig here. We have our Hall effect sensor mounted in a bracket, aluminum bracket. We have a Milwaukee drill here, and it has 2 magnets on it. That's all we're going to use here. Let me see if I can do this. Just got 2 magnets on there. I had 4, but slung a couple off, so we're just going to use 2. I probably will only use 2 on the balancer. The one might be okay too, and I might have enough signal pulses in this setup, and I'll show you how I adapt it. But I'll probably use 2. I don't want to use 4, 6, or 8, because it's more likely that one particular magnet will get slung off at some point. 2 is a pretty good number to me, and if I secure them well enough, it should be very, very reliable. So this is our setup, and I've got a battery. That's our power source right there. Let me point to it. Right there is our power source. This is our Hall effect sensor. This is simulating our flywheel. or our balancer where the magnets are going to be. This is the tachometer. This is just reading hertz, just to show that we have pulses in another way. And then eventually we'll get to this Dakota digital signal interface or Tach adapter. And this is critical if you want to use a W signal adapter. And then we'll go over all the pricing on this as well. And then finally we're going to check it using this photo tachometer with the contact, I don't know, RPM contact point or whatever. It's much more, I found this to be much more accurate than the photo tach and laser and reflective tape alone. This seems to work much better. So anyways, we'll go over this, how this is set up. So here is our balancer or flywheel, and this is our magnet. I only show one magnet here, but we're going to have two. This is the Hall effect sensor, this is our tach, and this is our power source. Now this isn't drawn exactly how you would have it on the boat, because you're going to have a key switch. You don't want to have power on this at all times. Just like when your tach operates, when you turn the key switch, you want the Hall effect sensor to get power on the key switch. So this positive, it's drawn with the battery, but really this is the positive off your key switch. You could use your to run power to this Hall effect sensor. You could also use your alternator field wire that is sending the 12 volt signal to the alternator. That should work. But anyways, so I had to research this, but the Hall effect sensor did not have any instructions, but it has a brown, blue, and black wire. Brown goes to the positive, blue goes to the negative, black is actually the signal wire out that is going to the signal wire in of the tachometer, and then you run everything else for the tachometer the same thing. Positive wire goes to the positive wire, negative wire goes to the negative wire, and that's pretty it. So that the hookup to this is actually very, very simple. Now just a note about signals. On most tachometers, are gas tachometers. They run off ignition pulses. So when you have one magnet, I'm just going to explain it in terms of gasoline tachs. When you have one magnet on the flywheel or the balancer, that's the equivalent of a 2-cylinder 4-stroke signal, at least as far as how tachometers want to see what a 2-cylinder 4-stroke signal looks like. That would be one pulse every revolution from something, whether it's from a magnet or from ignition source or anything like that. That would be for gasoline tach. This W signal tach is not the same, but when you start talking about interfaces and things like that, that's how they do it. So 2 magnets would be a 4-cylinder 4-stroke, and so on. It's just useful to kind of know that when you are going through this stuff. Now there's other types of tachometers and tachometer systems. There is tachometers that use a pickup similar to this that goes on the flywheel, and it actually you can program the amount of teeth on the flywheel and you can get a very accurate signal there. There's the W signal like this that takes it from the alternator. There is ignition pulses, which is what gasoline tachometers use, and then there's even other ones, like I had this from Tiny Tach, which is a piezoelectric sensor, which this clamps onto the fuel pipe of the between the high pressure pump and the injector, and when the line slightly expands under that extremely high pressure, 1,000 or more psi, this will generate a small electric pulse, almost like how your little barbecue grill igniter works. And this can be used for a tach signal as well. That's currently what I have on the boat, but the problem with this is this is actually a 1-cylinder 4-stroke signal, and that is the lowest count, I guess you could say, of signals of just about anything out there. That's why even one magnet that sends out a pulse once every revolution is actually equal to a 2-cylinder, but one pulse every other revolution is actually a 1-cylinder 4-stroke. So this signal is a little bit low on the count. I have it on the boat right now and it does work. It works fine, but I'm just continuing to experiment how I want to do this and what I find to be more reliable and easier. The reason why we're doing that is I have two different type tachs on the boat. One's a digital for the lower helm, one's analog, so it's easier to read on the upper helm. And the way that these are counted on those are not exactly the same, although they're both new electronic tachs. They have a wide range of adjustability, and I hope that the overlap between the two is good enough, and I can make sure that the overlap between the two tachs hopefully does overlap by adding more magnets. You know, if I put two magnets in and the overlap isn't programmable, then I can add 4 magnets, because on the tachometer, the JEGS tachometer that I have in there now, it's programmable for 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 12, and maybe even 16 cylinders. And the upper helm one is a little bit different than that. So hopefully, if I put 2 or 4 magnets on it, I know I can program the lower helm tachometer, but hopefully I can also use the same signal to get the upper helm tachometer working as well. So we'll see. So now, anyways, I am not using this signal interface. It's out of the loop, and I have 2 magnets up here on the system. And if you notice, when I put the magnet close, you'll see that red light come on. Hopefully you can see that. Yep. Okay. And so now I have the equivalent of 2 magnets, which is a 4-cylinder 4-stroke signal out. And when I spin this up to approximately 1500 RPM, I've already checked it, what do you think we'll get on a tachometer that requires a W signal input, which is many, many pulses? So let's see, 1500 RPMs, here it goes. Not much, about 200 RPM. You can see, let's see here, I go real slow, and you can see the pulses. Get the gap closer. So not a lot. So using this system, it's basically intractable. You cannot get there from here. There's just too many pulses required. And there is adjustability on this, but it's minor. You know, it's not going to even remotely come close. And I have it adjusted in such a way that this is going to read as much as it could. So now I'm going to put the Dakota Tach adapter in there, and we're going to see how that works and how to adjust it. It's adjusted. You can either adjust it with buttons right here, set and increase, or it has an app. It's actually got Bluetooth, and in the app it's very easy to adjust. On here it's a little bit convoluted, obviously, with 2 buttons, because there is a tremendous amount of adjustment in this. So I'm going to get a different camera because I'm filming this on my phone, and then we'll also film me going through the app and making the adjustments. So number 1, with the first test we did, we proved that this does have an output, but it does run this tach. So it works, it runs this tach, it's just not seeing the pulses it wants to see. So that's really good news. You know, that a lot of people had a question, will one of these cheap Chinese Hall effect sensors signal run an old W signal tach? The answer is yes. And so we're going to make it work by using this $9, well, you figure 12 bucks for 4, but of course when you buy just a single one, they're always like, you know, a fraction of that. So say 8-9 bucks for one of these, or just buy 4 for 12 and have a couple spares. This signal interface is, I checked, is currently sold on Amazon for $99. So essentially you can make this work for $99 plus, just say 12, getting a couple spares and using the 4 magnets that come with it. That's pretty good to retain your old W signal tachometers. A lot of you want to keep your old stuff. You just like it to be more reliable and probably more accurate. So I'm gonna do this in just a second. I'm gonna put this in line with the Tach signal and then show how to program it. But I just want to let you know that you can adjust this using this in very minor increments to make this dead on. It's very, very easy to adjust that, and I'll show that in just a second. Okay, so just before we do this test, we're going to verify what the RPM of this drill is with this photo tachometer. But this is a photo tachometer in here, but it has this unit on it, so I found this to be much more accurate. So let's just see how I can do this. I'll twist it up. So you just hold the button there, and let's just see what we get. Whoops. 1436. So just a hair less than 1500. So 1436 is what we're shooting for. And then I have this wired in right now, and this box only takes positive and negative. And then you have on the Tach section here, it's upside down, but I can't really move it. There's the input wire that's coming from that, and then the output wire, which this has options for high voltage or normal. We only need the normal, and this is the output wire that goes to the Tach. So this is a very simple unit. You can set everything through here, but it's much easier to do in an app. So I'm just going to show you. I have everything set to 2-cylinder input and 2-cylinder output. And you can see we still have on that tachometer, we still have the same RPM that we used to. Okay, so now we're going to go into this app, which is for the Dakota Digital. Hopefully it works here. Okay, it's a very neat app. We're going to go to Setup, and we're going to go to Tach. And as you can see in here, we have it set to gas. It doesn't much matter because the signal type, once you've kind of, it's very similar, and whatever works for a signal type, but gas is probably the most common. So the cylinder input count is 2 because we have 2 magnets. Even though I said that is equal to 4-cylinder, it doesn't much matter because you have cylinder input and cylinder output, cylinder count output. So we have a low number of inputs here, and this tachometer requires a very high number of outputs. So we're just going to change this around. We're going to take this and we're going to use the app, and we're going to go up to, let's start at 14 because I don't know exactly what it is. This signal for this Tach is so high you could probably calculate it with some math, but it's just easier to do it this way. So now we're going to test it again and see where we're at full speed. Okay, so about 1100 RPM. Okay, so we're a little shy, so let's see how far else we can go. Let's go to 16. Okay, let's see if we can go. That's all we got is 16. So what we could actually do is we should be able to go down 1 here. Okay, now it's way too high. All right, so we're gonna go back to, I could probably, let's do it this way. We're gonna go back to 2, and then if you notice right here, there's a calibration value, and it's a pretty wide range. So we're gonna start playing with this. So right now we're back to 2 and 16, and that gets us about 1300. So we only need a little bit more. So you can start messing with the calibration factor there. I don't know if you can see it. So we're at 1.053. We're getting closer. So that's like 1390, and we need about just under 1500. All right, so we're at 1400. Let's see, we're at a little higher. 1.103. That's pretty close. We're at 1420 or so. Let's go a little more because I can't remember what it was now, but you get the point. Alright, so that's just under 1500. I think it was a little bit lower than that. I'm going to split the difference and go 1 higher. So that's 1450. You can see that, right? Okay, so now you can see that the signal is very stable. And as a matter of fact, when I go way down in RPM, it's very good. As a matter of fact, let me reduce this on the drill. So that thing is barely moving. You can see this rotor. You can see the blinking of the signal, and you can see our RPMs are registering. So that's a pretty steady Tach signal. I believe it's probably very accurate. And then one last thing, you can see the distance of the magnets to right here, so you can get that in there in the shot. The distance between the magnets and the sensor. There's a little bit of distance right there. You know, I can practically get that in there. And so let me see if I can get it. So you can get it very close, and it looks good. And you can see if you can get this and that tachometer in there. That's good. So as I start to pull it away, you have to go pretty far before you lose the tach signal. So let's see, right there I start to lose tach signal, and that's like 3/8 of an inch, right? So you don't have to get it super close, and it's pretty solid signal. So overall, it's pretty impressive the way that this works and the ease of the setup. So very cheap, less than $10 Hall effect sensor, and a $99 Dakota digital and just make some kind of bracket on the front of your motor and a couple of magnets. This kit came with 4 magnets. That should be all you need. But in case you need more, you can buy these kind of magnets. I have tested these. As a matter of fact, these aftermarket ones are the ones that are on there. So that works. So for around $115 tops, you can get a signal, and not much effort, 3 or 4 wires. You can get a very solid signal, absolutely for sure, from this Hall effect sensor to your old school original excuse me, W signal tachometer, if you so choose. If you want to change this at the same time, once you convert to this type of signal, you don't need a W signal tach. You can get a gasoline tach, you can get fancy tachs, you can get digital tachs, you can get just about any tach you could think of, because once you get away from a W signal, there's literally 100 tachometers out there that look all different types, all different styles, that you can put in there. And that's what I did. I got a digital jegs for the lower helm, and I got a I don't even remember what I got for the top, but it's a nice black and white one, analog, just like this, so it should be very easy to read in the sunlight. And of course, this tach is a real tach out of my boat that is a W signal tach, so I just proved that this does work. When I put this in and get it working on upper and lower helm, I will also then post a video, so just to further prove that it does work. So anyways, that's it. I hope that helps, but this is complete and full instructions on how to do this, and I think this is how I'm going to go. Okay, one additional thing, if you get anything at all from these videos, don't forget to like and subscribe to the videos. I think we're approaching 900, which is good. We just do this on the side and basically share information, but I would like to get over 1,000. But in addition, we will soon be cruising. We're almost done. Once I get this tach signal, I got to do a little bit of fuel polishing, but we should be taking the boat out very, very soon, which I'm very excited about. We'll be able to get some footage of the boat in operation, which I'm really looking forward to. Are you looking forward to it?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I know you are. All right, so like and subscribe if you would. Thank you. And don't forget, if you have any questions, I always answer all of my comments. So if you have any questions about this, go ahead and ask a question. Or if you see something that's in error, a wise person once said, I don't want to be wrong a second longer than I have to be. So if you see something that's in error, I certainly don't want to spread misinformation. So if you see something, please also correct that in the comments. All right, that's it.